Okay, my name's Paul Novak. I'm with the IRIS organization, and we teach. We help. Our main goal is kind of to help college students to kind of deal with the burden of college reading. How many people are behind in their reading right now? Okay, this is almost always the case. And if you are somehow keeping up, you're probably spending a tremendous amount of time keeping up. Am I right? It probably takes hours and hours of reading. So, what we'll do today, just so you know. First of all, you'll find out what your reading speed is. Does anybody know what the reading speed is? No. It's not something we really put on our resume, is it? We put our typing speed sometimes, right? Might put the. Actually, if you read 2 or 3 or 4 times faster than the average person, it might be something to consider putting on your resume. But you'll find out what your reading speed is today. After that, we'll go into just some why you read the way you do and reading habits that pretty much everyone in this room has, and some of the habits that we need to change. Okay, and we'll go right into, after that, drills and exercises so we can make some kind of an improvement today. That's the main goal. We're starting slightly late. It's 10:10 by my count over here. Thank you again for your patience. But we'll try to get the drills and exercises in so that everybody in here can make some kind of improvement. Yesterday we had a session, about 30 people. We have a good turnout today. And everybody in the last session made a good improvement. So all this really takes is having an open mind and a willingness to work at it. I've been teaching this for close to 4 years now at the high school level, college level, even at the corporate level. We've done this at different corporations. Have you guys heard of HSBC? HSBC, it's Europe's largest bank, I understand. Lehman Brothers, they're a big investment bank based out in New York. We did this for a Chicago-based mutual fund, Ariel Capital Management. So this is a program that obviously when you're in the corporate world, you still have to be reading. How many people do a lot of reading at work? Some of you are working right now doing a lot of reading. So it's not going to stop after college. Obviously, college is the point where you just get overwhelmed with reading. When I first got involved with this program, I took it as a freshman in college, which was kind of an ideal time to take it. It was, freshman year. You guys remember freshman year? What's the feeling like? You come in and you're definitely motivated, right? Or what's the beginning of every semester like? You're on task, right? You're doing everything. What do your notes look like at the beginning of a semester? They look great, flawless, right? 2-3 weeks later, we're looking a little spotty, and then maybe 5 weeks down the road, maybe no more notes, right? So at this point, we're probably, some of you already said you're probably far behind. After my 5th or 6th week of college, I just couldn't keep up with the material at all. I was taking an 8 o'clock in the morning class. Anybody, you ever do that? Did you ever do it again? No, I did it once. I never did it again. But I go to class from about 8 o'clock to 2. I went to school at DePaul University in Chicago. My freshman year, though, I went to UIC. It's just west. It's actually very similar to what Drexel is to Philadelphia. It's kind of just off of downtown. It's not right in the middle of it. UIC is the same thing. And I would go there. I was a commuter, so this school is mostly commuters, correct? Yes? I was a commuter, so I would travel, it was like 20, 30-minute train ride, get to school at 8 o'clock, go to class until about 2 with breaks here and there. I was also a walk-on on the basketball team, so I'd play basketball. The practice was from maybe 3 o'clock to 7, study at the library till about 9, take the train back home. So 7 o'clock in the morning till about 10 or 11 at night was my entire day. Obviously, after 4 or 5 weeks, this kind of just takes its toll, and I couldn't keep up. And even though I wasn't really procrastinating, I figured, how many people feel right now there's just not enough time in the day? 24 hours is, everybody feels like this. So hopefully, if we can get you just to double or get close to doubling, this can relieve you of some of the time. I mean, if you're reading 10 hours a week, if we could cut it down to 5, that's great. What is possible? It is possible to go 2, 3, 4, 5 times faster with better comprehension. Some of you, if you've ever Googled speed reading, you'll come across lots of software programs that are going to promise you 10, 20, 30 times faster with perfect retention. We're not out here to make any kind of extraordinary claims. What is practical for a college student or a business professional is you can go 2 to 5 times faster and you can increase your comprehension. So we're going to try to shoot for that. In this 1-hour session, we're going to try to get as much drilling done as possible. Like I said, I've been teaching this at the corporate level, college level. We've done this at a number of different colleges. University of Wisconsin-Madison, Columbia University in New York, NYU, University of Chicago. This is our first time here in Philadelphia, Drexel University. So you are kind of like our test group. We'll kind of compare you guys to see how fast you guys read versus Chicago and all of that. So, no, I'm just kidding. Not to put any pressure on you. What we'll do to start off, I said we'll start by figuring out where you are as a reader. But just to give you an idea of where I started out at. Hopefully this works. Yes, it does. This was my beginning reading speed. After about 5 or 6 weeks of my first year, I was so behind that, when I heard about a program like this to get involved with it, I was very, very skeptical, but I decided I'd get involved just out of desperation because I figured if I'm not going to be taking this, I'm either going to have to go part-time to school because I was working on the weekends. How many people are working and going to school right now? Okay, a lot of us. It's tough to juggle work with school. It's tough as it is just going to school. So 190 words a minute was where I started out. I ended up taking a weekend class of this, and this was about, you start with a comprehension test. My comprehension was 60%, and this isn't because my comprehension was terrible. I didn't feel that way, but you remember the ACT or the SAT? You remember running out of time on the reading test or being rushed through it? This is almost always my history of standardized tests. Every time I took a reading test, I could not finish the test, ever. I would always run out of time, and this is probably the reason why I had a low score. Over the course of 2 days and about 10 hours of instruction, I went from 190 to 830, 60% to 83%, and this helped me tremendously. If you're going 4 times faster through your material, I transferred eventually to DePaul and I started working full-time. DePaul University in Chicago has a lot of evening classes, so I was going all 4 years. From sophomore year to senior year, I worked full-time at the Board of Trade. Anybody seen the Board of Trade or heard of the Chicago Board of Trade, the Mercantile Exchange? You ever see when they're talking about on the news about crude oil or something like that? All these people are yelling in the background. Usually they show the floor of some stock exchange or in the futures exchange. I was working on the floor over there, and I worked from about 8 o'clock to 3, Monday through Friday, and classes in the evening from 6 to 9 o'clock. It would be absolutely impossible if I was still reading at this rate to work full-time, go to school full-time, and still graduate in 4 years. So I give this program a lot of credit. It's helped me out a lot. I hope it'll help you out a lot. So today is kind of like the beginning so that we can see what kind of improvements can we make. And it's hopefully to erase some of the skepticism. Some of you might be a little skeptical. That's fine. I was skeptical. Part of the reason English is my first language, first of all. It's Polish. So I didn't start learning English until I was like 5 or 6. I thought that might be a barrier. The other thing, some people think that reading faster is something you just have to have a natural knack for. And that's also not true. So we'll start off, you'll find out what your reading speed is. After that, we'll talk about why you read the way you do. And then we'll go right into drills and exercises. And hopefully by the end of this hour, everyone will have made some kind of an improvement. So let's start. Just take one and pass it down. Leave this flat, though. Don't start reading it yet. Let me explain how we're going to do this. Okay. All right, anybody not have an article? Raise your hand if you don't have one. Okay, everyone's got one. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to time you for a limited amount of time. It's only going to be a minute of reading, okay? So I don't want you to try and impress me and go faster than you normally would. Okay? And I don't want you to go slower than you normally would either. Just go at your regular speed so we can get an accurate idea of where you are. Okay? After a minute, I'll stop you and you'll draw a line wherever you stopped. And then we'll go about figuring out how fast you read. Okay? Go ahead and begin reading. And stop. Okay, I want you to draw a line wherever you stopped. Draw a line wherever you stopped, and I want you to count the number of lines you just read. Count the number of lines you just read. And I want you to take that number and multiply it by 10. So if you read 19 lines, multiply it by 10, that'll give you 190. The reason why we're multiplying by 10 is there's approximately 10 words per line in this material. If we wanted to be accurate, we could just count every single word, but we're not going to do that every time we read. This will give you a good approximation how fast you're reading. Now I want you to take that number, and on the back of the survey card that you have on your desk, write that number on the top right-hand corner. Number of lines you read times 10. Put this number top right-hand corner. Okay, it's abbreviated there, beginning words per minute. Okay? Now you're probably wondering, and whenever I do this, I always see this. People start looking over, they want to see how they did, and I mean, if you don't know the person next to you, what do? You kind of lean back a little and you go like this, right? Some of you are covering your score, actually, right? You don't want the. What is the average? The average person reads 150 to 250 words a minute. Okay, this is the average. If you're below 150, you're considered a little below. Anything above 250 would be considered a little above. Okay, most people read in this range. Now, anybody that's taken a stats class, I assume a good amount of you have, knows that averages need to be explained. Let me explain this average. This average is based on average level material. Okay? This would be considered average level material. It's not Dr. Seuss and it's not advanced level physics. Okay? It's somewhere in between. Okay? It's not too easy, not too hard. So this is average level material. What do you think happens when we have harder material to read? What happens to our speed? Yeah, it slows down. That's natural. That's always going to be the case. And what happens when we have something easy? Let's say this was Harry Potter or something simple. It's going to be higher, right? So if you think about this, when people say, okay, well, what is your reading? If somebody asks me, what is my reading speed? Well, it's not one speed, okay? Everyone has a reading range. You might read easy material really fast up here, and you might read hard material down here. The goal of a program like ours is to boost your entire reading range. Not to get you going 1,000 words or 2,000 words through Shakespeare. That's not going to happen. Okay? But through technical material, you can go 2 or 3 times faster. You're not going to go 1,000 words a minute, but you can go twice as fast as you're going right now. So this average right here is based on average level material. The other interesting thing about it is 30 years ago, it was 250 to 350. Well, that kind of sucks, right? Our parents on average read faster than us. And I mean, we could speculate on why this is and all that. We're not going to get into that. But the average reading rate has gone down. The other thing about this average is it's only based on 1 minute of reading. Okay? It's only based on 1 minute. Now, when you're studying, you know, when you're reading your textbook, are you reading in 1 minute spurts? No, usually you read for an extended period of time, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, or an hour. This is based on 1 minute of reading. What happens when you increase the amount of time to your average reading speed? It does drop. It drops because of basically fatigue, right? So it's based on 1 minute. So averages are probably a little lower than this. And the last thing to know about this speed, and this is the really, really interesting thing, they find that most people after the age of 12, they don't make an improvement in their reading speed. Reading speed kind of stays the same after the age of 12. I'll give you a really good example. A few months ago, I was teaching this workshop at DePaul University, and we had a professor come in with a PhD and all, and he put himself on the spot and he said, I'm only reading 210 words a minute. How many people in here are reading faster than 210 words a minute? Yeah, some of you are reading, and if you think about this, it's a little strange because you're reading faster than a professor who's probably read more books than anyone in this class. Okay, you would think someone like that would be at 400, 500, 600 words a minute, but they're still reading at 210. So they find most people after the age of 12, they kind of plateau or they kind of hit this limit on their reading speed. That doesn't mean that professor is a bad reader. Nobody in here is a bad reader. This is not a hooked on phonics program, just so you know.